definition that we built was there are multiple modes of learning and there are multiple types of intelligence which inform how we acquire knowledge. And so breaking that down in the where was that in that lesson, we went through, we got to 5 of the 7 intelligences and specifically broke down how they apply to this lesson. Linguistically, we used language when we had when we said let's all play together. We used words in that way. You also wrote down vocabulary names of the country Ghana, some of the instruments that were used that we played, and we saw that and we spoke them out loud for vocabulary. Logical and mathematical, we were counting with rhythms, and we were counting the rhythms with numbers, especially during the rest period, 1, 2, 3, 4, using numbers that way. Also, we were playing patterns and setting up patterns and repeating patterns, which is by nature a logical and perhaps mathematical exploit. Spatially, we were holding the instruments, and you showed us how to hold the instruments in our hands and demonstrated that for us and had us do it ourselves, so we were able to see that. We also had us spatially close our eyes and envision dancers in Ghana and actually see what this might look like in Ghana, this actual exercise of drumming and this activity. Physically, we developed a physical representation of holding and playing the instruments. So again, there's a little bit of overlap there, that there was physical representation of holding and playing the instruments, so we got to feel that. And then musically, sort of pushing us with the counterpoint of the rhythm, having us hold our own against a very advanced drumming rhythm and feeling musically how that feels. Also, musically establishing fundamentals in how we chant and play together at the exact same time. And so then looking for room for potential inclusion of even more of this stuff, intrapersonal learning. Perhaps there would be an opportunity to break into smaller groups and experiment with leaders and followers within that group. Perhaps there would be one small group that, as a group, would lead into another group, give the experience of, as a group, cueing another group that then plays, and then that group perhaps cues another group. Perhaps getting up and dancing and infusing this into a body. I imagine much of this may happen in future lessons as well.
Yeah, but
just looking for opportunities.
You're really doing exactly what we're looking for, which is like, if we wanted to do more of this, you know, right. Even if maybe there wasn't time or you're doing it later, it's really just about like,
where would we go from it?
Where else could we go with it?
Also spoke about opportunities, even just small opportunities to sing, get an experience of singing, if it's at least mimicking maybe the pitch of the bells. Did you hear that? What was the different pitches? Can you kind of sing those 2 pitches? Just even a small moment to have people who would like to sing and feel musically that way sing. Other things that we spoke about?
That was a really good job.
Thank you.
So we were looking at blooms, and our kind of definition that we kind of came at talking together was, I guess, that blooms is kind of the building blocks of learning, and that the building blocks can be used within one lesson and also as a structure over a period of time. And I guess the big thing that we kind of realized while we were talking is that what our aha moment, I think, was that, well, we were talking about blooms the last 2 days more on the bottom 3 levels of understanding, knowledge, and like application. But when we were discussing it now after looking at your lesson and after the days, that we were really talking about it on the top 3 levels. We were really evaluating, analyzing, and kind of creating our own ideas about it. So that was kind of an exciting moment, I think, for us.
Nice.
And what we saw in the lesson was that, you know, obviously as a first lesson, it was really kind of the foundation. We were just really dealing with the first 3 of knowledge, comprehension, and application, setting the knowledge of the instruments, of the culture, of the place, of the pattern, making sure that they understood repeating by clapping, repeating by using instruments, and then playing together as a group. And that, I guess that we were talking about since it obviously was the first lesson, it was really focused on those 3, but there were moments where we were analyzing back what we were doing, ways to play together better, things to listen for, and we were kind of evaluating. You asked, you know, were we perfect? And we got to say no. We kind of, but we talked about this as a lot of were setting up how to evaluate. There was a lot of giving us the framework of how to evaluate more later on. And I guess we talked about that there wasn't really a lot of creating yet, and that's what I guess the first lesson, though we were discussing whether what Courtney was doing was creating or whether that was application, and I don't know if we came to a consensus there.
That Courtney had creative control over how long the piece was. It wasn't maybe spelled out in that way that this is Courtney's version of the piece, but maybe that's a good thing, because you don't want to go into interpretation so soon, because this is all about the building blocks. So he was mimicking the teacher in most things, but he did get to choose kind of the length and when to start and stop. So that was the beginning of creation.
And I guess we were talking about the creation, maybe it's you need to kind of hold back the top 3 levels to really focus on the bottom 3 levels, so that when people do go into those top 3 levels, they have the skills and the tools to really go into it in a way that is going to be more meaningful and and organized.
And you also gave everyone an inkling that there will be a creation process when you started improvising over everybody's pattern. So I think it kind of gave the idea in the back of our minds, oh, we're going to get to do that too when we have more skills.
Also, give it up.
So we thought that the easiest way of showing the inquiry, if you look at the big idea, even though it's a statement, if you just kind of rearrange the words and say, how can you build community through Ghanaian drumming, that was really what the inquiry was of the whole lesson and what I think the whole 7-week course would have been. And so in looking at it that way, we definitely thought that a lot of the questions that Andrew asked were intentionally at that idea of building community, of, okay, what's going to happen when somebody messes up, or what's going to happen when somebody's not following the rules. And it wasn't you coming in telling them the rules, it was, we have to actually create this. What might we do? And so we thought that that was a very good way of bringing in the student inquiry process into literally creating a community that was doing this. What else do we have?
Where it happened, all the places where inquiry happened, and you getting the students to kind of look at their personal lives, like where do you see signals and where do those happen throughout our daily lives, helping them to personalize the experience as well. And I think also you sort of saying, and next week, and then we will, I think for me as a student in the lesson, made me ask questions of my own. So you presenting material caused personal inquiry as well as like group inquiry, which I found pretty interesting.
Yeah, one thought we had of maybe trying to get more inquiry-based in understanding the culture of Ghana would be to sort of let mistakes maybe happen and then figure out why they happen. So if like the rhythm falls apart, then have the students ask, well, okay, why did that happen? How could, how do you think the culture there has grown to prevent that from happening or something?
Great.
Scaffolding,
Scaffolding.
the definition that we came up with.
Well, we debated a long time about the definition, putting the pieces together. The main idea of what we came up with was there's a step-by-step process to provide a foundation of support and foster student learnings that way. Give students the guidance and the information they need in a logical way so that they can achieve what we want them to achieve, I guess. Building on one big idea in a logical way.
So it boiled down to scaffolding is a teaching technique, building and filling on one main idea with a step-by-step approach to guiding students to learning.